Okay, so take home message. The pace of which evolution occurs can be rapid or very slow. In some cases, the fossil record reveals long periods with little evolutionary change, punctuated by rapid periods of change. In other cases, species may change at a more gradual but consistent pace. So, again, we see both things to be true. Now, what about adaptive radiation? What about this idea of tons of new species? Can that happen? And the answer is yes. When a small number of species diversify into a much larger number, okay? That's called adaptive radiation, are times of extreme diversification, all kinds, like an explosion of new species. And it's like, how does that happen? Why would that happen? Okay, so there have to be the big thing is there has to be a lot of resources. In order for tons of species to come about, there has to be a lot of food, there has to be a lot of places to live, etc. And what we've seen is that can happen when mass extinctions happen, or colonization, or evolutionary innovations. Okay, what does that mean? So think of the dinosaurs. They were all over our planet. Something happened. We think a meteor came, crashed into Earth, changed our whole climate, and they perished. Okay. Now, when those guys died, now there are all these resources that are available for other species, and the other species can flourish. So here it says mass extinction events, with their competition suddenly eliminated, remaining species can rapidly diversify. And it's like, how do we know this stuff? Okay, we can dig into the earth and we can find fossils. And what's wild about fossils? So here, if we're here in the United States, we find fossils here. If we go to Europe, around the same area in the rock, geologic timescale, we find fossils there. We can go to Africa, we find fossils there. And all around the world, around the same time, around the same, geologic time, same species. Then all of a sudden they're gone. Then all of a sudden we don't see them anymore, okay? And we see different types of species. So that would be an example of adaptive radiation, okay? So adaptive radiation occurs when a small number of species diversify into large numbers. 3 phenomena tend to trigger. So mass extinctions would be one. Number 2, colonization. Colonization, group of species going into new habitats. With a new habitat, now you have more resources, right? Moving to a new location with new resources, possibly fewer competitors, colonizers can rapidly diversify. Okay, that's what happens with islands and island chains. Evolutionary innovations. Now, people remember, mutation is the ultimate source of new things, right? Whether new, whatever it is, okay? In this case, what if there's a mutation and we get wings? Imagine the possibilities of wings and the new ecosystems or the new habitats or the new areas those organisms can thrive in. So it says evolutionary innovations. With the evolution of innovation feature that increase fitness, a species can rapidly diversify. So we see these things happening in our history, in our evolutionary history. All right. So adaptive radiation tend to be triggered by mass extinctions, colonization of new habitats, or appearance of evolutionary innovations. How about our world? Have we had mass extinctions? The answer is yes. When we look at our world, extinction is a natural process and it happens. And we have things called background extinction. So they happen, okay? But when a bunch of species go extinct around the same time, that's a mass extinction, okay? So here we have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There have been 5 mass extinctions. That's what our world shows. Background extinctions are happening. Now, what's wild is some biologists think, right, with climate change and what's happening with destruction of habitats, that we're actually going through a 6th mass extinction. So background extinction, extinctions that occur at lower rates during periods other than periods of mass extinctions, occur mostly as a result of natural selection. So it happens, it's natural. The problem is if it's a lot. So mass extinctions have different causes due to extraordinary and sudden changes to the environment. Background extinctions occur mostly as a result of natural selection. So here, a meteor, right? That's what we think happened with the dinosaurs. And you might go, Miss Collins, how do we know this? We have craters, like in Mexico, if you Google it, right? Crater in Mexico, huge, right? And when they look at the rock didn't come from here. So they know it had to come from space, right? Global climate change, worldwide mass extinction, catastrophic events set the stage for explosive speciation, remaining groups including mammals. All right. Now, finally, for this chapter, again, the diversity of life, the diversity and unity. So an overview of the diversity of life on Earth, organisms divided into 3 domains. I've already pushed that. So look at this, so beautiful, yes? So jellyfish, right? They are called invertebrates. They don't have a backbone. Yet they're multicellular, made out of many tissues. So is this an animal or a plant? Or a bacterium? Well, it's an animal. Of course, it's an animal. But it's not a vertebrate. It's an invertebrate. So where do we classify it? Okay. So all living organisms are divided into 3 groups. We can have a 2-kingdom system, animal, plant, 5-kingdom system, monera, plant, animal, fungi, protists. Okay, that's what we have is a 5-kingdom system. All right. So, but specifically what 2 things I want you to pay attention to. 3 domains, which I already mentioned already. Bacteria, prokaryotes, archaea, prokaryotes live in extreme environments. Eukarya, eukaryotic, and the animals, plants, fungi, protists are under eukarya. They all have a common ancestor. What, Miss Collins? Stop lying. No, remember, they're all made out of cells. Phospholipid bilayer, phospholipid bilayer, phospholipid bilayer. They all have organic molecules, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, all of them. They all have metabolism. They all have genetic material. They all can reproduce. So there's that unity. And then, yeah, there's diversity. We're not bacteria, right? So how can that be? Do we have commonality? Yes. Is it because of common ancestry? We think yes, okay? All the fingers are pointing to yes, okay? So it says the approach is not perfect. Our virus is alive. Oh my gosh, right now with COVID, right? A virus, some biologists say it's alive, some biologists say it's not. Under this definition, they're not alive because viruses cannot reproduce on their own. Viruses they don't undergo metabolism. All viruses are genetic material, either DNA or RNA, and a protein coat. That's it. They need a host in order to reproduce. So that's kind of really interesting. So viruses are in this weird thing between living and non-living. Yet, look at the coronavirus. Look at what it's doing to our economy. Look at what it's doing to our population. You know, I would argue this is evolution. This is evolution. Perfect example of evolution. Our population and what's happening to our population. We thought coronavirus really affected the elderly. Now we're saying no. People in their 20s, people in their 30s, and their 40s are being affected. So that's evolution. Changes in the population over time. And who's going to survive and who's not going to survive. Now with coronavirus, it is affecting the population, but a very, minuscule scale. So very interesting. All right, so origin of life, okay? The bacteria are the most ancient organisms. What we mean by that is they were here on our planet the longest, okay? Bacteria rose from first self-replicating metabolizing cells. They are split between the bacteria that gave rise to archaea, right? And then eukarya. The fusion of bacterium and archean like prokaryote gave rise to eukarya, which then split into the archaea. Okay. So bacteria, even though they're single-celled, we can't see them, they are huge. And the amount of bacteria, they actually have the largest biomass. And their diversity. You could take microbiology and learn all about these little guys, okay? Here, why is morning breath so stinky? There are bacteria that can live in aerobic environments, like with oxygen. There are bacteria that live in anaerobic environments, so no oxygen. So when you sleep, you're making less saliva and your mouth is closed. So certain types of bacteria are reproducing, and their waste products are what make our breath so stinky. Look at this. That's a toothbrush head, and all of these are bacteria growing on top. Okay, so single-celled. They have DNA. They can exchange genetic information, reproduce asexually. All right, so all bacteria share a common ancestor. Bacteria have much broader diversity, metabolic, reproductive capabilities. The archaea, they are bacteria, right? They are single-celled prokaryotes, but they live in very extreme environments, really hot environments, really salty environments, really acidic environments, where we thought nothing can live there, and then we realized, oh, things do live there, yeah? Thermophiles, really hot, halophiles, high low pH tolerant, high pressure. So yeah, archaea exhibit tremendous diversity, are often divided into 5 groups based on their physiological features. And then finally, the eukarya. That's where we belong, right? So under eukarya, plants, animals, fungi, protists. Okay. So eukarya, right? So here's a slime mold, so fungus, plant, mushroom, right? And then here's an antelope. All living organisms that we can see with the naked eye, and many that are too small to be seen, are eukarya, including plants, animals, fungi, protists. What are fungi? They're like not animals really, but they're multicellular. And the thing about them is they have to eat. But what they eat is they generally eat dead stuff, okay? So they grow on dead stuff. Protists, they could be single-celled, they could be multicellular. A great example of protists are when we looked at our pond water. You know, the euglena darting around, or the amoeba, you know, those are protists. And then eukarya are unique among the 3 domains in that they have cells and organelles. All right, we're going to stop here. Next week, we will have an exam. So you need to be studying, and I'll be writing that, and I'll be posting that on Canvas. I hope you're all well, and talk to you later. You can always email me if you have any questions. All right, bye.